good evening, and welcome to the Wise Words of the Day with me, Dr. Cheryl Chapman in South Yorkshire, UK, and
all the way from fantastic Firenze, it's me, Marion Beddington. Hello, and ciao bella.
That means she's in Italy. So this is our well, that's not really a challenge. It's just what we want to share, really. As you know, Marion and I, or maybe you don't know, are the co-founders of the Find Your Why Foundation. And we help people to find their why so they can become freaking awesome. Or even more freaking awesome. So every day we're going to share with you a question that we've been given that starts with a why. And so if you've got any questions that you would like to put to the panel, if you like, then please add them in the chat box below. Or you can send us a PM if you don't want to be named. So we had the lovely wise women in the Live, Love, Laugh Lounge and the lovely men in the Man Cave, which are part of the Find Your Why Foundation, have given us a number of wise questions. And so we are going to begin. And so the first question that we have this evening is, why do I feel lost? So, Mazzy B, what do you reckon? Why do I feel lost? Why would somebody feel lost, do you think?
Well, you feel lost when you're in no man's land, don't you? When you feel lost when you're not sure where you are, but you're not somewhere that's familiar. That's about it, really. That's why you feel...
Thank you and good night. But of course, it's been lost as in, you know, lost, feeling like you've lost your way. You know, that's kind of like physical, you know, do you feel like you're at a crossroads, for example, and you're lost, you don't know which way to go? Maybe you've had a change in your life. So, of course, that might be a divorce, a disappointment, a death, you know, something like that. And so you're feeling lost because maybe you feel like you've kind of lost a bit of you in the sense that you've kind of lost maybe your identity. People often feel like they've lost their identity, don't they, Maz? What do you recommend they do if they've lost their identity?
The whole thing about being lost is that, I mean, I was being flippant but serious at the same time, is that when you get used to things as they are, then everything feels familiar. When you're familiar, it feels safe, it feels certain, you feel confident, but you may eventually feel a bit bored. And in that place, not much changes. So when things do change, you no longer are in a place that's familiar. You're no longer in that certainty. You're no longer in that comfort zone. That's where the idea of being lost actually lives, doesn't it? In the unfamiliar. And what becomes unfamiliar to us, if we stay with it for a while, it will eventually become familiar again. And things are constantly changing. It's a very in yoga. There's a whole set of key instructions in yoga about change. And change is constant. It's just happening all of the time. But when, as you say, when a part of your identity goes, so, you know, if you're a mum and all the kids have left home, or if you were married and now you're single, or if some part of your life shifts, so now you're in unfamiliar territory, then that feeling of loss is actually a real indicator that the change has taken place and what was familiar has suddenly gone away. And one of the things about feeling lost is it can be very exciting because it can be an adventure. But what can prevent it from being an enjoyable experience is when you actually don't really know where you're going or what you're going to do or how you're going to get there. And the worry of not knowing can overwhelm you, which would stop it feeling like an exciting adventure.
Exactly. And of course, the mind loves what is familiar. So if you've done something that is unfamiliar, and of course, any of those changes that we talked about, and I know I did I did cite one of your quotes, Marion, change is inevitable, misery is optional. Exactly. So I cited one of those the other day because, you know, when you've had a death, and I know I've had a death of my animal friend, Mr. Aussie Dog, this week, you know, you do feel lost. You know, you kind of, like, I came back from being in Doha for the weekend with Mr. C, and I walked through the door, you know, and my mind wants me to go, hello, Aussie Dog, you here? You know, so I felt lost. I felt there was something lost. And of course, when you lose something, you want something back. So of course, you're obviously going to, feel like there's something missing. Mind loves what's familiar, hates what's unfamiliar. You've got a feeling of loss. You want to find it. That's why whenever you're losing weight, by the way, you never say, "Oh, I've lost 2 pounds," because the brain goes, "Fuck, better find that very quickly." So you feel lost when of course something's made a change in life. Just want to say good evening to the lovely Dr. Jill Barham. Good evening. How are you, lovely? Can't keep you away, Maz. Spent the whole weekend with her, and now she's talking you again. So the next question is, and thank you, Jill, for joining us, because I know you've just got back to the UK. So the next question, of course, is, well, what can you do about it if you're feeling lost? What is it you can do if you are feeling lost for whatever reason? What would you recommend, Matt?
Well, there's two areas that we can focus on here, because one of the areas is, what is it that you've got right now, even though you're lost? What is it that you've got that you can be grateful for, that you know that you enjoy, that you know that you value? If you've split up in a relationship, it's still healthy. You've got your health, so look for the things that you can have real gratitude for. And sometimes they'll feel like really, really ordinary things, but you know that without them, you really would be fucked. But the other thing that you can do is you can focus on, how do you come out of that feeling lost? Where would you like to end up? What do you want to head towards? So it's almost like looking at the past and the present and seeing the beauty that you can find in all of that. And when it comes to looking at the future, what is it that you actually want to create in your future that will actually take advantage of what you've lost? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's an awkward one, isn't it? I mean, one of the things that I always recommend is, just listen to yourself and become aware of what's going on, because I fled, after the decision to put Ozzy to sleep, because I just felt like I couldn't be in this space, because I felt really lost, even though I was in my own home, because of this familiarity. I kept going in the bedroom and thinking that I was seeing him on the bed. I was speaking to my husband. He was devastated. I was devastated. We weren't in the same place. So I would say, be aware of what your body's saying to you. So it may be saying to you that you want to be on your own. That you want your own space. You're feeling lost. You need to find, what your thoughts are yourself. Or maybe, as in my case, it was, my awareness was that I needed to be with my husband. So, that meant I had to change the plans. It meant, I couldn't come to Frenzy with yourself and Jill and the other amazing transformational leaders of Europe. But I just kind of listened to myself, and I already knew what I should do. And the other thing, of course, is that the reason why that was a really good idea is because I could have stayed here and I could have wallowed in self-pity, and I know that sounds a bit harsh, but, when you're feeling lost, well, you can stay lost as long as you fucking want. You can tell yourself you're lost and it's miserable and, oh my God, this is, I'm a victim, this is terrible. And you keep telling yourself that, and guess what? You'll be a bloody, psychic. Start doing the lottery numbers, because that's what's going to happen, isn't it, really? Mm-hmm. So, sometimes you have to change your state, change where you are, change who you're with. But for me, it's about just recognizing where you are and listen to yourself, because there'll be lots of people telling you what you should do and what you shouldn't do.
Absolutely. Really fortunate. What you've done is the support of the Chippy, and because he was a family dog, there was that bond and that relationship you've got, and the fact that he wasn't here, again, was something that you could take advantage of. So it is look through all of the things. What is it that I can take advantage of? And this isn't to avoid the grieving when it is a loss of a person or an animal or a big loss that you really feel. Grieving is really important, because the grieving is helping the body and the mind to resolve the loss as well and heal. But you're right, you can't, if you wallow in it, then you're just injuring yourself, really, is what you're doing. You're preventing healing.
Yes, exactly. And so some tangible things that you can do is, obviously, be aware of yourself. Just want to say hello to Anna Nusha, who is in Poland. Dzień dobry, Anna, dzień dobry. So be aware of where you are. Remember that the mind loves what's familiar. So, of course, you can recognize that, that what can you do to make something new familiar, so the unfamiliar to familiar. Manuel's joining us and saying hi to Jill. So hello, Manuel. And again, what you said, recognize that you might want to be on your own. You might want to be with somebody if you've got supportive people around you. I mean, that's why we created the Find Your Why Foundation communities, of course, for collaboration and for community. What else tangible can the ladies and gents do if they're feeling that they are lost? Because that's what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah. So, well, again, allowing the emotions. Yeah, so allowing the emotions that are there, not blocking them, but not wallowing in them.
Yes.
And identifying what it is that you can take advantage of, where you can identify gratitude, where you can lift your own spirits. And then really thinking about what is it that this change is offering you? What's the opportunity in the change? Because change is inevitable, and it means every change is going to bring new opportunities. Now, some of them we might want and some of them we might not. But occasionally what happens with a loss is it creates a space that was never there before, or you'd never been aware of before. And that space then can be, the seed in the ground, the fertile ground, for something absolutely brilliant to come into. So a really good exercise is not only identifying and visualizing what goals and ideas you might want to have in your future, but focus on what the feelings will be like when you've got this brilliant, new, familiar adventure that you're on right now. When you get to a place where it begins to feel comfortable and familiar again, how that's going to be and how brilliant that's going to feel, because the law of attraction brings more of what we're feeling. So if we're feeling down and we're feeling lost, the law of attraction is going to keep throwing that at us. So you've got to find a way to shift your state, and you only need to shift it up a tiny little bit for the law of attraction to start showing you new things. So allowing yourself to become open to receive what great possibilities there are out there for you, and take yourself to the feeling place, again, more gratitude. The more grateful you are for what you've already got, the more stuff you're going to get to be grateful for. So it's choose the emotional states that you actually do want and dwell in those, wallow in those, if you like, wallow in those positive states, because then the law of attraction is going to bring more situations that hold you in that specific state as well. And if that's the state of your choice and a state that you do want to go towards, then that in itself will add to the healing process that's needed to move on from whatever the loss was.
Yeah. And I've kind of gone down the route of the loss. But that is one of the reasons why you feel lost, isn't it? Because you've kind of lost your identity, lost somebody else, lost a position in
sometimes it's not even that lost things. It's that so for me, for the first few months of this year, there's been a sense of lost for me because I'm not certain of the direction that I want to move in. But what I didn't appreciate when I was feeling really lost was that I'm really grateful for where I am today. So it's not that I'm not happy and I'm not happy about the future. It's that the future was an unknown and I hadn't made a clear decision. And so I was feeling like, what next, what next? But I was really enjoying what now.
Yeah,
and I
exactly.
started to appreciate the what now.
I know in terms of the feeling of sadness, if you like, the one great thing that came out of this last few days is that how I don't like that feeling. I wouldn't want to be in that feeling long term. And okay, it's a really good example of a contrast. But again, very similar to what you're saying there, Maz, is, I recognise that isn't a place I want to stay in. So yes, I can grieve. Yes, it's sad, but I do not want to be wallowing in that sadness for very long. So now, it actually helps you, when you're feeling lost, to really perhaps put a little bit of a new direction on, which is what you're saying there, in the terms of like, actually, I much prefer the feeling of happiness, of being happy, of laughing, of, memories. And I know, you've only got to go to a funeral and, there'll be somebody in the corner, telling about the time when Fred did X, Y, and Z, and everyone's laughing. Just me. And I think that it is a contrast, isn't it? So why do you feel lost? Well, it's probably because you've got a lost opportunity. You feel like you're missing out on something. You're overwhelmed potentially. You're confused. And so, of course, in those spaces, you can do what we have shared with you this evening. We'd really love your comments if you're watching this as a recording. We have set ourselves a challenge of doing one of these a day. This is, if we carried on for another hour, the 1st of May's version. Just so you know, because Maz will be flying.
It's the 1st of May in Doha.
Yes, of course. Yeah, should have pretended I was in Doha. Yeah, so 1st of May today. We're going to do one of these every day. If you've got any questions, if you'd like to ask those questions, ask the panel. If we don't know the answer, then we'll find somebody who does. But we're just sharing our thoughts, to help with the questions that we've got. So why are you not posting a question right now? There's my question back at you. So, very quickly, it is, let me just see hello, who's been on here, just give some quick hello. So, hello, Claire, Louise Jury, Manuel, Anna Nushon, and Jill Barron for joining us, and give us lots of comments, thumbs up, hearts, question marks, squirrely faces, whatever you want to do, and just tell us why you feel the way you do when you watch these videos. Yeah, what's that? Yeah, a winky face. So, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from Hair.
Speak to you later. Bye-bye.
Good night.